Hey, it's Bree Nakatani here, and you're watching Wishpond's podcast video interview series. I have a question for you. Ever wonder about the struggles, strategies, and strides businesses take to become successful? Well, today I'm talking with Josh Feinberg, VP of Platform at VerticalResponse. VerticalResponse is an email marketing platform built to help you grow your business. Josh was the first employee at VerticalResponse 14 years ago, and today he shares how he got started and where they are now. So let's talk to Josh and learn more about VerticalResponse.
My name is Josh Feinberg. I'm the Vice President of Product Management here at VerticalResponse. I have the distinguished honor of being actually the first employee of the company. Got hired in 2001, so it was three co-founders. Originally started the company, and then I came on as the first full-time employee. So it's been an exciting ride. It's been great for sure.
That's crazy. Yeah. So take us back in time, 14, 15 years ago. Before that, where did you start? You went to college?
Yes, I'm originally from upstate New York, so a town called Ballston Lake, and so it's a little bit north of Albany. So when you say upstate, it could be anything north of New York City, but so near Albany, New York, and it's a great place to grow up. I went to college at the University of Vermont, so in Burlington, Vermont, so still kind of in the East Coast area. After that, I moved to just outside Aspen, Colorado. A couple of my college friends and we kind of did the ski bum life for a year right after school. So it was great. We used to, work at nights and kind of ski and snowboard during the day. And that was a great experience, but definitely not something I could do for more than a year or so. And from there, my sister was living out in the Bay Area. It was kind of the height of the dot-com boom around 90, 98, 99. So she said, just keep coming west. There's so many jobs out here. So that's kind of how it all transpired, yeah.
Well, we definitely know about the ski bum life here in Vancouver. Whistler, I don't know if you know Whistler? Yeah.
Whistler was was a great vacation I had there a couple of years ago. It was a great, amazing place.
Yeah, ski bum world heaven there.
Yeah.
So what did you initially go to school? Did you know you wanted to get into tech, or was it just kind of happened?
No, completely random, really random. So I went to school for psychology, actually. My dad's a psychologist. My mom does counseling, things like that. So it's kind of been in our bloodlines, if you will. And right after school, I had the option to take a job at a clinic doing clinical psychology in Cleveland, Ohio, or move to Colorado and do the ski bum thing. So I took the latter, and it was
obviously the latter.
The right decision. But no, I mean, when I moved to the Bay Area, I was just looking for an entry point into the tech world. I had no past experience. I wasn't a computer science major. I didn't, know how to code anything. But at that time, there were so many opportunities for people to kind of join these companies that were growing. So I kind of came in on the ground floor. I was, working customer support and servicing like a online business directory, kind of even before some of the search engines were there. So it was a place for small businesses to publish their name and their business, kind of like an online Yellow Pages. So that was my first experience being able to be involved in tech, as well as kind of be involved with small businesses as well.
Okay, great. That's like me too. Also did a BA. Where does that take you unless you're going to actually become a psychologist if you do that? And I started off customer support too, so I know what you mean. And when did VerticalResponse launch, and how did you even get started with VerticalResponse?
Yeah, so it's interesting how all of these stories I'll tell kind of tie together. So when I moved to the Bay Area, my sister, her boyfriend was a graphic designer at this company called Zoom.com, Zoom with an X-O-M. And that company merged with a couple other companies to form what was called NBC Internet, which was kind of the NBC television company combined with a couple other internet properties. So the group that I joined was kind of a direct email marketing, kind of the direct email marketing, direct marketing wing of that company. And the CEO of VerticalResponse, or to be the CEO of VerticalResponse, was a woman named Janine Popick. She was the VP of that group. So what happened was, like many companies in the dot-com bust, that company went under, everyone got laid off, and Janine started VerticalResponse in 2001. And through a friend, or actually through a previous manager that I had, she recommended me to Janine and just happened to have my resume around. So when Janine started the company, I was there. She reached out to me, and kind of the rest is history. So it was an interesting transition from a big company that failed to kind of starting from something from scratch. So it was kind of right place at the right time, if you will.
That's awesome. And what I mean, maybe, I mean, you would probably know this, but Janine, what was the inspiration for Vertical Response?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so at the NBC Internet and even in the previous companies that she worked with, there were so many very high-end, highly technical solutions for email marketing and kind of mass mail marketing that were just way over the heads and price points for small businesses. So she really felt that there was a kind of an underserved market for giving tools to small businesses, creating templates, giving them all of the things that a power user may need, but kind of more in line with their skill set and their budget. So she was very passionate about taking the learnings that she had from all of her marketing background, but building something that, you know, a mom and pop shop running a restaurant or a nail salon or a car dealership could easily use. So it was really helping the little guys succeed was her goal for sure.
Yeah, I've looked at your platform and I've opened an account there just to see how it was. And it is so easy to use and it is so simple and it's really well laid out and really well. I can see how easy it is for a small business to get started. It's not intimidating. We're not seeing a lot of code here. It's very simple with the platform.
Well, it's very kind of you to say. We try to keep it simple, but you know, there's always room to kind of keep improving that experience for sure.
For sure. And so you started with Janine at the company when it was starting. So it was a startup.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
was it a hustle to get that off the ground? Were you there sleeping
Oh
overnight
yeah,
under the desks type of thing?
pretty much. I mean, it was probably, you know, one of the greatest experiences that I've had. You know, that's why it's so cool to look back after all these years and figure out to kind of remember where it all started from. So yeah, it was four of us. We were in a non-air conditioned office with all the office supplies that were left behind by the previous failed startup that we inherited their space. So they were moving out and we were moving in, and we just basically said we'll give you, you know, $2,000 for everything in the office. So that's kind of how things
Wow.
were going at that point. Companies were kind of rising from the ashes of that initial dot-com failure, and we were starting out right around the same time. So yeah, I mean, we were competing against some larger companies that have been established for longer than we had. So I don't think anyone took vacation for the first 2 years. People, you know, nights, weekends. That's just kind of what you do to get something off the ground. So it was hard, but when I look back at that experience, I think it's you know, so important and so meaningful because you really kind of see where all your hard work actually see that materialize over the years was great. So very much the startup mentality and the startup role, and that's kind of part of the DNA. Even though we're over a decade into this thing, we kind of like to have people still have that scrappy mentality of we got to get people together and make smart decisions with limited resources.
Yeah, it's an interesting mentality to have to start off a company with because you don't see that a lot, especially with a corporate business that
Yeah.
starts off corporate and it's very
Yeah.
like clock in your hours, but
Mhm.
yeah, startups a different energy. I love that. Um, and so you guys started with 4 people, you said.
Yeah.
How long did it take until it, you know, really took off the ground? Did you have any experiences with customers where you're like, okay, this is working, we're on the right path, people are loving it?
Yeah, I mean, we had the good and the bad, as you would expect. So, I
Yeah.
mean, one thing to note is that we, you know, we never took on any VC funding. Janine
Hmm.
went out to friends and family and kind of bootstrapped it. So basically, she had borrowed money from friends and family, including her mom, to get it off the ground. So we all felt, you know, a huge kind of responsibility to make sure that we took care of the folks that gave us money initially. But yeah, there was a mix of good, you know, once the company started getting off the ground and we started acquiring customers and actually had the phones ringing and support emails coming in, it started to feel like it was really clicking. And the feedback that we were getting was great. People found the services easy to use. You know, we were lucky enough to kind of see a pretty rapid spike in growth, which was good from a revenue and a growth perspective, but it also brought its own share of challenges. So, you know, the site would fall over once in a while, the mailers would stop sending. You know, the early days of not quite being ready for that type of growth was pretty nerve-wracking. We had a huge customer that was, you know, in the very early days that was trying to send a large newsletter out, and like I said, the mailers stopped right midstream, and we had to kind of kick the machine to get it going again. So you know, it was a mix of just trying to stay ahead of all of that, be able to scale the company from a technical standpoint, but also from a people standpoint too. So I would say, you know, once we started having more customer support emails than I could answer on my own, we would start to build out a support team and try to stagger the hours so we had as much coverage. And you know, Janine would look to hire marketing consultants and folks that could help in that area. And then from the technical side, yeah, the VP of engineering would try to find new developers to be able to take on multiple projects. So it was a good position to be in terms of seeing that growth, but it was it could be stressful at times just trying to get it off the ground and make sure that it didn't fall over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, what would you say? Because starting businesses and starting startups especially, you fail a lot and you run into a lot of problems. What would you say to someone that was nervous about that, that has hesitated to run into failure, that they don't want to run into that?
I think, I mean, you have to be able to deal with that and kind of, see success as the primary goal as opposed to kind of reducing failure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you'll ever get as far in life or in business if you don't look at it that way. I think as long as you're, upfront and honest with your customers and your coworkers, you'll be in a good spot. I mean, there were scenarios where, Janine, our CEO, called that customer who had the issue and basically said, we'll do whatever we need to do to fix this for you, and if that means getting you onto another provider somewhere else, we'll make that transition, seamless. She wanted to make sure that, the services that people were signing up for and the level of service that they thought they were getting was in line with their expectations.
Right.
So I think that if you're serious about doing a startup and you're kind of have that entrepreneurial spirit, then you have to be comfortable kind of taking a little bit of a leap of faith. And if you have good work ethic and a good team around you, then you'll probably do okay.
Yeah. Um, you guys are a subsidiary of Deluxe.
Yep.
So how
Yep.
did that happen? Is that when you guys really you guys took off, and when was that?
No, I mean that was actually fairly recent. So
Oh,
we got acquired by Deluxe, I think June of about last year, June of last year. So it's been about a year and a half or so.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was. I mean, we were definitely past a decade, and there were different times in the company's history where we looked at taking on funding or other kind of acquisition opportunities, but nothing kind of worked out the way we wanted it to. So Janine was not overly eager to sell if it wasn't the right opportunity.
Good for her.
But it's been a great experience so far. I mean, we have the backing of a very large company that's been around. I mean, Flux has been around for almost 100 years this
Oh,
year.
wow.
So it's amazing to have a lot of history there with them, but also have other resources available to us. So
Totally.
it's been great. It's been great so far.
And you guys, as you were just saying earlier, you guys are located in San Francisco. And so how do you like working from the tech hub of the world?
It's great. I mean, sometimes I guess I take it for granted in terms of how plugged into the tech sphere we are. But it's amazing. I mean, just you walk down the street and you
Hmm.
see people, you see and hear people talking about interesting things, even if you only catch part of the conversation. There's T-shirts and sweatshirts of all of the tech companies that you would expect. But it's just it just seems like a good vibe, and I think there's pluses and minuses to it, but it definitely feels like the tech hotbed for sure. So it's exciting to kind of be part of that as well.
Does it feel like that just reminded me, does it feel like a campus of people with their different clubs and walking around and everyone's
I think
club?
depending on where you go. I mean, so we're right in downtown San Francisco, so there's a mix, kind of near the financial district as well. So there's a
Yeah.
mix of investment bankers and tech
Right.
people and people in healthcare or real estate. When you get down onto like the peninsula and the kind of true Silicon Valley area, then it
Hmm.
feels, uh, depending on if you're by the Google complex or some of the
Yeah.
other places, it actually does have a little bit of a college campus feel to it. So it's definitely an interesting part of the world for sure.
Yeah. And I actually was just wondering this, because I know it's the tech hub of the world, but in San Francisco specifically, how hard is it because it's so beautiful outside. How hard is it? And tech is inside.
Yeah.
What's that dynamic like working in such a beautiful place? Because here in Vancouver, it rains like 70% of the
Yeah.
time. So you're like, I can't go outside anyways. Let's
Yeah.
just work until the midnight. What's it like working in San Francisco?
Well, so I mean, with vertical response, and I would say with a lot of tech companies, having a flexible kind of not always not just a work from home policy, but also just a flexible hour policy. We see folks riding their bikes or jogging during their lunch break. We see people kind of in other companies, you see them coming in a little bit later, but working. a little bit later during the day so they can exercise in the morning and then kind of stay a little bit later. So having that ability to kind of flex your hours depending on what your role is, what your company is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, even if you're tied to the desk, even just getting out and taking a walk around by the ferry building or
Yeah.
Embarcadero, it's beautiful. It really kind of clears your head and gives you some perspective if you've been stuck in a conference room all day. So
Yeah.
yeah, we are very blessed to have a beautiful kind of scenery around us. So it's important to get out there and enjoy it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Get the brain, the juice flowing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So why was email marketing something your company wanted to do? You said earlier, there wasn't that the programs out there weren't good from Janine's experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And why is that something she wanted to really just focus on and expand on? Just that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, direct marketing and direct email marketing was one of her core strengths and really where a lot of her experience came from. But she just, as much as I think she enjoyed working in a larger company and serving, larger clients or bigger clients in a lot of capacity, she loves small businesses. She knows so many different types of small businesses, and the idea of being able to make a meaningful impact on their kind of day-to-day lives was her passion, and it's something that has spread throughout the company, and we all sort of believe that as well. So it wasn't just let's go solve a technology problem for some specific niche or some market. It's these are real people, moms and pops, brothers, sisters, things like that, who are all kind of working so hard to manage every aspect of their business. So she wanted to provide a solution that gave them some time back in their day and didn't take too much out of their wallet to pay for the service. So that was the big thing. It's just small businesses are great, and doing anything you can to kind of make their lives better was kind of the mantra here for sure.
Yeah, and you guys are very affordable too, and have very flexible paying
Yeah.
plans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the defining kind of offerings that we've had since day one is a pay-as-you-go.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to sign up for a long-term subscription, you just want to send 1,500 emails, then you can just buy credits, which are essentially like postage stamps, if you will. So that was very appealing to a lot of customers who weren't sure if email marketing was going to work for them and didn't want to sign up for a 6-month or a 12-month contract. So just being able to pay as they went was pretty cool for them.
Yeah, that's really nice. Is there any success story with one of your customers once you guys were more established and some sort of small business had a really successful email marketing campaign that they're like, wow, you've helped us do this?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the cool experiences that I've had is working at trade shows where we have a booth that we're exhibiting at, and you'll have people come up and you start to open your mouth to kind of sell them on your features, and they stop you and say, you don't have to sell me. I'm already a customer, and I love your service, and this is kind of what it's done for me. So meeting people in person and hearing their stories, understanding how they manage their wine store, or how they're handling this part of their real estate business and the challenges they face and just how little time they have. I mean, folks are doing this over their lunch break. They have 15 minutes to get the newsletter done, and they've commented on how easy it is to get it off the ground and out the door, which is great. There was one specific example. I think because we're very close to wine country here in the Bay Area, we have a lot of wineries who use us to
Lucky
send out
you
their
guys.
wine club emails and kind of shipment orders and things like that. So I can't remember the name of the winery specifically, but they mentioned that they spent a certain amount of time designing the email and less than $10 to buy the email credits to send it out. And they had this promotion and wound up making like $35,000 just from that sale. So the return on that investment, and the way they described it was just off the chart. So it was probably the best testimonial that we could have had in terms of them feeling like it was easy to use, it was affordable, and the return they got on it was just kind of incredible. So that's probably one of the best examples. But I would say again, just meeting people and hearing their stories at trade shows and things like that has been by far the most rewarding experience I've had here for sure.
Yeah, that must be really cool to actually meet your customers in person, because we're online. We don't actually get to see them face to face. I see why that would make an impact.
Yeah, it's great.
And what do you think well-constructed email campaigns, why do you think that they're important?
So tell me what you mean by well-constructed.
Well, like with including the correct subject line. Like, what's the subject line? Why is that important? Why is it important to personalize the email and
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah, so I mean, with so much email that people are getting on a day-to-day basis, it can be kind of overwhelming, right? So the subject line obviously is the first bit of information that's going to potentially capture their interest, and hopefully they won't bypass that and go to the next email in their box. So it's got to be short, sweet, and concise. They have to have something that's going to kind of lure them in and want to explore more. Once they're in the email and have decided to open it up, yeah, the personalization, like you mentioned, having some context that, calling them by their first name if you have that information in your database, being able to reference previous products they've purchased or events that they've attended. So you're establishing that personal relationship as opposed to kind of a generic form letter, dear valued customer, things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
personalization and all of that stuff is pretty key because again, it feels more like a one-to-one communication than a mass email. And then just making sure that the content that you're sending them is fresh, it's relevant, it's something that they may not be able to easily find on their own. That's going to kind of keep them coming back to look for that next email that you send to them and not bypass it. So that type of structure, from like you said, from subject line all the way through to the content, it's important to take the time to do it right, because you'll get a better overall response for sure.
Mm-hmm. Would you advise people that are tempted to be quite salesy in their emails to tone it down the first
Yeah.
couple emails?
Definitely. I mean, I think kind of along the lines of what I just said. I mean, people don't like to be oversold or heavily sold in person, so the same concepts apply for email as well. So I think it's important, if the offer you have or the value of what you're providing is truly valuable, then it should come through in the messages that you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
So what we also often tell folks is show your personality. Show who you are, not just what your logo looks like and what your kind of tagline is, but kind of show who you are as a company, who you are as individuals. I think people feel, as receivers of emails and of marketing materials, they feel more relaxed when they know that they're dealing with a real person or a real company as opposed to just a brand.
Yeah, and that just kind of reminds me, what would you say to someone that is hesitant to do email marketing? Because a lot of people find email marketing, there's that buzz around, oh, it's spammy, oh, it's too much, but really, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a variety of ways to do it wrong, and usually that means kind of taking shortcuts. So,
Hmm.
buying a list of leads of people who have never heard from your company and then trying to send them email. It's a great way to damage your brand and kind of get a bad reputation. Sending them overly salesy content, like you said, or things that aren't really relevant to what they thought they were signing up for to begin with, right? So if they're signing up for something that says you're going to receive special coupons, 75% off, things like that, but then what you wind up sending them is very long, lengthy emails or white papers. It's that disconnect, I think, is going to kind of turn them off. So, the short answer is, if it was easy for every business to grow through email marketing, then everyone would be, killing it left and right. It can be challenging, but it's not overwhelming. So the best practices that we provide and suggest are, building a list through kind of ethical and reliable means. So getting people to sign up, whether you use a single opt-in form or a double opt-in form, to confirm their subscription to make sure that they are the ones that actually signed up. Again, personalizing the content, kind of delivering on that promise. So if you say you're going to send them those coupon emails, make sure you do it. Make sure it's fresh and relevant, not overly salesy, and definitely not kind of misleading where the subject line says one thing but the content says something else. So
Totally.
I think the concepts in general make sense to people, but again, in a pinch, sometimes people will try to take the easy way out, not because they're trying to do something bad, but they unintentionally make a mistake that could hurt their
Hmm.
response rates or their brand, things like that. So,
Hmm.
we try to just keep them focused on doing it the right way, knowing that it'll pay dividends down the road.
Yeah. And are there any tips that you'd give small businesses to help, if they wanted to use email to increase sales for their business? Because it is a good way to obviously, that's the whole point of them, is to turn these leads into sales for your business and into loyal customers at least. And
Yep.
um, is there anything advice you would give them in terms of when they should be going in for the sale, and you know how to acquire that lead and turn them into a customer?
Um, so sorry, say that question one more
So
time. I just want
kind
to
of
make sure I
like, if someone was to sign up with a company or with a small business, and they were going to send out a newsletter or just a campaign of emails to talk about their business, do you have any advice about how they could actually generate sales from these
Oh, sure.
emails?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to how the emails themselves, can be constructed in terms of the layout. So, you may want to have some personal, informal introduction to the email that kind of just welcomes them back and gives them kind of an update on maybe what's been going on in the business, has some relevant content about the industry or the business itself, just to kind of get people comfortable. And then if you have either a sidebar or some section below that has a series of products that are, you know, um, have some information, links off to the website. If they want to go dive in and learn more about it, they can do that. But not necessarily turning the email into a kind of a carbon copy of the website itself. It should be a teaser. It should be able to spark interest that then has them take an action to click off to it to go learn more about those products.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having a ratio between text and images and informational copy versus sales copy, trying to strike a balance. If it's really skewed towards one or the other, then I think you're going to probably lose readership that way.
Yeah. And do you find, because I saw with your templates, they're so easy to construct when you just drag and drop the different text boxes, image boxes. Do you find that like visual emails are like convert better or get more opens and clicks and reads? Or
Yeah, traditionally, I mean, having some type of visual component is pretty important. It's the first thing that catches people's eyes. So, we have a variety of templates that are either just a basic layout of, one column vertically, kind of top to bottom, to different layouts where there's one column, two column, three column. And we find that a lot of the customers really just focus on the most basic layout because they have a logo or a big kind of masthead image that goes to the top, and then they're constructing articles here and there and dropping in an image or two. So we've kind of learned over the years that we previously created a lot of complex designs and layouts, but for the most part, we find that people really like the basic layouts. It's easy for them to use. It's kind of intuitive to have it read either like a newsletter or a product offering, depending on what it is. And that combined with some of the other editing tools and ways to be able to socially share the email and kind of extend that reach of that email. It just gives them like a nice template to work within to get it done quickly.
Yeah. And what are some other products that you guys have besides, I mean, you're well known for email marketing, that you guys have that people really like?
Yeah,
right?
I
You have
mean,
something
definitely.
social. You have social something.
Yeah, so we also have social media marketing tools
Social
as
media
well.
tools.
So in addition to when you create an email and send that out, you can share a version of that email into your social networks. You can also include components in the email itself, which allows the recipient of the email you sent to share it with their network. So again, you're kind of casting a wider net for your customers to then share it with their networks that way. Um, we also have standalone social media publishing tools. So you could go to Twitter native or Facebook native and use those tools separately, but we're trying to bring that all together under one roof. So there's a little kind of social media message box where you can type a message and then it'll automatically distribute to all of your Facebook pages as well as all of your Twitter pages all at once. So you're focusing more on just authoring interesting content and then letting us handle the kind of the posting and distribution to all the social networks that you're connected to. So the goal is to kind of build out a solution that has email and social and kind of campaign building, so you could create a series of newsletters and social posts and kind of roll that all up into a kind of a summary report of how did all this stuff work together and which channel is working better, email or social or some combination of the two. Yeah.
Very cool. How does it, I was just wondering about the social thing. That's really cool. If someone wanted to click to share the email on social, how is the email shared? Does it post like the title of the email?
Yeah, so it'll basically allow them to it posts things to the subject line of the email, which is then hyperlinked to a web page version of that email.
Okay, got it. That makes sense.
They can see it that way.
Really cool.
And then they'll be able to see the content that was received and ultimately be able to go back to the website and sign up for that newsletter if they find that it's interesting. So it's a great way for a small business that may have an email list of 500 or 1,000, so not a huge list, but maybe their Twitter following or Facebook fans
Yeah.
are in the multiple thousands. So they're getting many more eyeballs on the message if they're using multiple channels to publish to when they send it out.
Yeah, that's really smart. Um, what's your position at Vertical Response because you're vice president platform of the platform?
Yeah, it's sort of
Or I know
yeah,
it's like you do everything.
yeah. Product management, platform management. It's sort of all the same. I mean, I've been responsible for product functionality, feature enhancements, integrations, things like that. So,
All over
when
the
I
place.
yeah. So I've been lucky enough to be exposed to so many different things, from email delivery and compliance aspects to product marketing to product management, and yeah, it's been great. But my main focus is kind of bringing the platform forward and driving the roadmap of new features and enhancements
Yeah.
to the core user base. Yeah.
Connie was telling me you just launched a new product. What was that? Last
Well,
week,
so
I think.
last week was there's been so much going on. So we launched a kind of an automated email sending, also commonly known as autoresponders. So it's just a very quick and easy way for customers to create a kind of a timed email that when customers are added to a list, they automatically get sent a welcome email
Oh,
that you can create in the email tool, but it gets fired off every time someone joins the list. So right now, prior to that, if they had a list of subscribers, again, 500 or 1,000, if they had to add one or two people here and there, and they wanted to make sure that they received the content that was sent, a week before they signed up, they would have to do all that manually. So it's just a quick automated way of setting that up,
nice.
and then we'll work towards improving that to more kind of time-based or drip marketing campaigns from there. So it'll give them more flexibility to create true campaigns. Yep.
Yeah, and so we're integrated with you. So a lot of our customers use Vertical Response and they love it, and they'll just have everyone that they've acquired through us be
Yeah.
put into your list and have the
Yep.
marketing campaigns. Um, what was I gonna say? The integration, or what are some of the metrics that last question? What are some of the
Okay.
metrics that are important to pay attention to for people that are running campaigns with you guys in your dashboard?
Sure. Yeah. So we track, a lot of the standard stats that you would expect. So the number of emails that were sent and who's opened and clicked and bounced and unsubscribed, and you'll be able to see which links they clicked on within the email. So you get a summary view of the overall performance, but you can then drill down into the really specific granular details. So you could see that Bree clicked on 4 links. This is when she clicked on them. And you could then actually create a mailing list of all the people that clicked on a certain link to do a follow-up email. So that's kind of the view that we have right now, and there's a lot of other interesting things that we want to do with that data to not only present it, but also make it actionable. So when you're setting up your first campaign, you could also define some rules to say, send a follow-up email to everyone that clicked on this link 4 days later, if they perform these actions. So
Yeah.
again, knowing that a small business customer has very little time to sit down and do all of this, we want to make sure that when they do get into the tool, they're maximizing their time and we're doing as much for them on their behalf as possible, because again, in addition to saving them money, saving them time is probably the top priority from their perspective. So that's kind of the guiding light that we try to follow for product development.
Nice. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to end off with 5 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
You ready?
Sure.
Okay. How do you energize yourself throughout the day at work?
That's a great question. I find if I'm sitting at my desk too often, I have to get out and walk around. So, coffee runs are good for that. Starbucks always helps right around the corner, but just getting up and moving around is good. Caffeine helps for sure as well.
I'm actually not a caffeine drinker. I feel like I'm the
Okay.
only non-caffeine
No, that's
drinker.
good. It's good. Yeah, you
And
don't want to get too addicted to it.
part of me wants to get into it. I feel left out of that crew.
Yeah.
So what is the first thing you do when you get home from work?
Oh, that's a great question. So I'm lucky enough to have three little ones at home, and basically the minute I open the door, the little 4-year-old comes sprinting across the room and gives me a hug every single day. So that's the highlight of my day. She's great. No matter what she's doing, she'll come over and give me a big hug. So that's literally the first thing I do when I walk in is give her a big hug.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you a morning or a night person?
Oh, by far night person. I've
Night
always
person.
been, yeah, a night person. I I enjoy the quiet time at night. It's just I find it peaceful and relaxing, and mornings are just tough for me. That's
Can't get up in the morning.
yeah, hence the caffeine for sure.
Get the
Yeah.
caffeine and the walks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
What's your number one tip for an email subject line?
Number one tip. That's a great question. We've looked at different things over the years. Trying to avoid excessive capitalization or too many exclamation points. I mean, just if you're shouting your subject line, it's going to kind of come through. It's going to sound a little bit desperate. So I would say short and sweet, and have some personality, have some humor built into it. I think people like to, as they scan through their email box, find things that seem interesting as opposed to just that generic content of newsletter for volume 17. That's just who wants to open that?
Yeah. Don't seem
Yeah.
spammy, basically, as well.
Yeah, yeah. Don't seem
Um,
spammy and show your personality,
show
that's
your
for sure.
personality. And what is the best advice you've been given in your position?
Best advice. I would say definitely it comes from Janine. I was lucky enough to report to her for many, many years, and I think it's trust your gut. I mean, for the most part, it's going to steer you in the right direction. Don't be afraid to take risks. It's far better to take a risk and try to clean up the mess if it makes a mistake than kind of just sit on the sidelines and not take a chance. So she's led by that example for years. I've learned a ton from her, and have kind of trust my gut more often than I necessarily did in the past. So I think it's part of the startup mentality, but it's just part of life as well. I mean, you got to just sometimes take a leap with not necessarily all the information you hope to have, and if you're working hard and you have a good team around you, then you'll be able to do well.
Thanks for watching our interview with Josh. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you next time.